Awesome. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining the Juniper presentation at Network Field Day. I would venture to say the biggest announcement of the day is not in 2 hours, it's actually right now. So we are super excited about the press release we put out this morning and the announcement we're making around, the mystification of the campus fabric. I won't steal the thunder from the presenters before, but I did want to actually lead off with, our heart, our soul, Bob Friday. Bob, we've always had sort of the same slide and the same story around the journey. Bob is continuing to lead the charter around our client-to-cloud AI-driven enterprise vision. But without stealing his thunder, Bob, over to you first.
Hey, thank you, Sudhir. For those who know us right now, this Mist Marvis journey really started when Sujay and I were at Cisco. And when we heard some of our very largest customers start to tell us that, as we were going from wireless being a nice to have to a must have, we saw it to go to be business critical. What we really saw our customers tell us was they really wanted to make sure controllers stopped crashing. That was annoying them. They were tired of the speed of innovation. They wanted to make sure that network innovation was keeping up with their handset innovation, right? They wanted to make sure they were getting innovations more than once a year. And then thirdly, it was really down to they really needed to have visibility into what the client was doing. We really was a paradigm shift from what I did 20, 30 years ago with aerospace and helping them manage boxes to really helping them manage the end-to-end client experience. And that's really where we went to leverage cloud, which really brought that speed, right? Cloud is a much better way of maintaining and developing software. And really AI ops was really that day two operations. And that journey really started with data. The reason we built an access point wasn't because we thought the industry needed another access point. It was because it had the data we needed to answer the question of why are you having a poor internet experience? So the data became, as I'm famous for saying, is make a barrel of wine a year. Great wine starts with great grapes. Great AI starts with great data. So that's the reason why we built an access point. The second thing we found is once we got the data to the cloud to answer that question, interestingly, we found out the same primitives, that same framework that we had to build for Marvis and to apply AI was really interesting to our customers. Customers found a ton of value in just getting the data to the cloud and into a framework in which we could help answer the question. And then thirdly, the AI. This has been a lot of marketing hype and skeptics, but I would tell you AI is ultimately the ultimate evolution of really automation, right? When you look what we're doing here, we are trying to build something that does tasks on par with human domain experts, which is really the next step in automation. And when you look in our industry, we know what's happening inside of medical, healthcare, cars. In our industry, those same deep learning networks are making a difference really around things like anomaly detection, where we can now do anomaly detection with enough accuracy and low false positives that we can actually do it and not bother the IT guy at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then thirdly, we're seeing a shift around the interfaces into these network systems. We started with CLI, we went to dashboards. Really, the next evolution is around conversational interface. This is what's really going to allow AI to become a trusted member of your IT team. Someone you can interact with, someone that will basically be able to get better as you basically trained it. And finally, this all evolves into ultimately what we want for automation is being able to have an AI assistant we can trust to start making decisions on our behalf. When you look at the journey, we started the journey around the access point because that was what really allowed us around answering that question of why are you having a poor internet experience. It turns out the access point has almost all the data you need to answer layer 2 connectivity problems. When we joined the Juniper adventure, we now are extending that across the Juniper portfolio. And as we extend that across switches and routers, what that really allows Marvis to do is now to answer questions with more granularity. When we start to bring that switch into Marvis AOps, that's what lets us get it down to what VLAN is causing a problem. It lets us start to make automatic corrections to those misconfigured VLANs. And then with the SD-WAN, that's what starts to let us start to answer questions about services and applications. The WAN router is what has visibility into all the applications and services flowing through the network. And then the SDK on the client side is what starts to bring the client visibility in the networking side. So when you look at what we're doing with Marvis and AIOps, it's really about extending Marvis and AI across all the networking from client to cloud. And what we're here today to talk about is really extending it into the campus. We're starting to extend Marvis across that QFX framework, where it's really going from the branch to that campus framework. And you're starting to see us even extend Marvis across third-party vendors such as CBRS. As we start to add private cellular and CBRS into the network, we will start to be able to add that into Marvis and keep track of clients as they move between their Wi-Fi and their CBRS networks. So that's where we are on the journey. The journey is long. We've been on the journey for the last 5-6 years. We are getting closer to playing what I call Jeopardy, Championship Jeopardy networking. That's been the vision since it started, and we're getting closer and closer every year. With that, Sudhir, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. And first of all, good morning and welcome to all the new delegates on Network Field Day. Really appreciate your partnership. One thing, Juniper, we were terrible at most of the previous field days is we crammed a lot of content so we could get every word out there and just race to the finish. But today we actually left ourselves a lot of space. I encourage any of you, just interrupt, please, and let's have a conversation. We have many gaps scheduled in these sessions just exactly for that. So maybe one last slide from me, and then we'll get the show on the road. Before we go to sort of what is new with Marvis and what Marvis actions are brand new for all of our customers, let me tell you why we have such conviction that we truly are on a journey to greatness and a journey of an AI-driven enterprise, right? It's bold statements. A lot of people in the industry are trying to race to get here. Let me just lay out for you, for any of you that are new to Mist and Juniper, sort of why fundamentally this is a different architecture, right? If you take our evolution, we started as a Wi-Fi company, built the world's best Wi-Fi, as Christian said. Truly, today, 10 out of 10 times, if we get a fair shot at competing in a POC, in a proof of concept, proof of value, we do win. On the Wi-Fi side, no brainer, right? So we got there, been there, done that, got the sticker. Then when in 2019, the acquisition with Juniper happened, we took on EX switching, and truly we answered the one question that we've answered on the wireless side, right? On the wireless side, the primary fundamental question we went after was, how is my user experience on the Wi-Fi network? We took that same exact question and got it onto the wired side. And Sunil is going to give you a deep demo of wired assurance, is what we call answering the experience question on the wired side. There are only two types of users on your network for the most part. They're wireless users and wired users, and we have done AI for both of them for quite some time. From wired and wireless, we went on to SD-WAN. And truly, we're starting to stream data from the SRXs and soon to be the 128 WAN routers into the Mist umbrella, into Marvis, right? This end-to-end AI with a single cloud really doesn't have a compare in our enterprise networking space today. And I won't lay out the competitors, but this is why we have conviction. A single AI engine, a single cloud that is able to span wired, wireless, and SD-WAN. A Fortune 10 company is deploying exactly that stack, right? Wi-Fi switching and SD-WAN from Juniper at 10,000 locations. This is why we have such conviction that this portfolio is powerful. Right now, what is new in Marvis? If any of you are new to Juniper Mist, Marvis is our AI engine. Marvis is our sort of Bob in a box, right? And so what we do is in Marvis, we have something we call the cup of coffee view. This is the first and only thing you need every day, the only dashboard you need every day, just to start your day off and say, how is my network doing, right? And this is proactive to you. So, literally at our customers, we have a global 10 company that specifically has a Marvis Actions team, and their job every day, come to the dashboard, turn this number to 0, and life is good, right? There's not been a more simpler, single dashboard across the enterprise. This is across all sites, the entire org. Order of magnitude, our largest customer is about 150,000 plus APs deployed. 150,000 plus APs and thousands of EX switches, and their Marvis dashboard probably less than 30 or 40, and then they knock them off as we go through. So Marvis Actions is our cup of coffee view, is our full stack view in the day. What is new with Marvis Actions? Here's what we've introduced new with Marvis Actions. Obviously, we've been building this for quite some time, but on the wireless side, one of my absolute favorite Marvis action, a long time in the making, is imagine you're an enterprise of 10,000 APs, 1,000 APs, 100 APs. And there's this one or two persistently failing clients that are, always like, man, the Wi-Fi just sucks, right? Why can't we get this right? But in all honesty, maybe the device certificate is bad, or the user is using wrong credentials, or it's a bad password on an IoT device. Whatever it is, a device persistently failing is worth bringing up. And so what that looks like for us is hey, across my entire enterprise, this large customer of ours, they literally have millions of devices simultaneously connected on a single dashboard, single cloud. No other vendor can speak to that kind of scale. But notwithstanding, if they have a couple of handheld guns in one of the stores of the 2,000 plus stores that we have deployed, we will find out exactly what's going on with that user, what's failing, where it's failing, and all this kind of stuff, right? The ability to know which users are failing, persistently failing, right? This is a new one, absolutely awesome. If you're an enterprise with, issued devices like, healthcare, retail, corporate enterprise, this is a game changer. Number two, many times we go into an environment, they start with Mist Wi-Fi, they do not have Juniper switching yet, right? Obviously, it's only a matter of time before they will, but until they get Juniper switching, now we've introduced detection of AP bad cables from the AP itself, with nothing to do with the switching side. The switching could be, anything, right? Cisco, Aruba, Meraki, anything. But if all you had was a Mist AP, we would tell you if there is a bad cable in the ceiling and be able to detect exactly which port, what AP. And so this is awesome. Many of our customers don't have Juniper switching just yet. And so just with Mist APs, we can tell you there's a bad cable in the ceiling. Order of magnitude example, Juniper Enterprise, right? We have about 50,000 Ethernet ports, and we found 19 of them out of 50,000 Ethernet ports have a bad cable. This is needle in a haystack. This is proactive AI. Then the next one, this is actually truly, finds problems. This ARP DNS anomaly detection sounds too technical, deeply nerdy. What this has done is at a one of the world's largest universities, prestigious universities, when there was on the uplink, core switch, there was a bad optic and was dropping some, ARP packets basically. But our ARP anomaly detection, sitting at the edge of the network on the AP, detected, a bad optic upstream, causing sort of network-wide outage. Truly ARP anomaly detection, kicked in and was able to find this. And so, yeah, so essentially we've added anomaly detection for ARP and DNS. We've always had it from DHCP and Radius and PSK. And so this is actually brand new, really cool. And so, even if the rest of the network is not homogeneously Juniper, this is awesome. And this is why we're excited about some of these new Marvis actions. The next one is coverage hole detection. Whenever I say that, the first reaction I get is, well, my grandfather's controller network had coverage hole detection. Come on, it's 2021 already. Here's why we are fundamentally different for coverage hole detection. And this is absolutely game-changing. Today is the day of game-changing innovations. You're going to hear some from a few companies, but this is super cool if you're a wireless engineer. So what we do, we measure coverage and capacity at a user level. Every user, every minute. Did that device, did that IoT camera, did that iPhone, did that laptop in that exact previous minute have good coverage or bad coverage? So nobody, literally nobody in the industry has this kind of efficacy of data where we're measuring every user every minute. When you measure on user experience and not old school controllers trying to figure out if the APs can hear each other and if there is a coverage hole between them, that's 2 decades ago. The coverage hole today is based on end user experience. Case in point, out of the 2,000 stores we have deployed, we found 7 stores where we said, hey, there is a coverage hole in these, in this bakery area, in this particular area. The folks that went there to do a site survey, to redo the site survey, found out, wow, how did you figure this out? At the MIT campus, 4 APs out of 10,000 APs, we showed that there's a coverage hole, near the vicinity of those APs. This is needle in a haystack problems pivoted on user experience, not network uptime. That's why this time around, coverage hole detection, absolutely awesome, game changing.
And Sudhir, then, can you just give us a little more detail on what exactly you mean by user experience, what it is you're measuring?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Dean. So what we do is we actually, so when we say user experience, we've boiled measuring user experience on Wi-Fi to, how do you get good, let's say you need to deliver 100 megabit stream to a device, right? How do you ensure you get 100 megabits, right? So at a Wi-Fi brass tacks level, and Sunalini and others are going to talk about the application level, but at a Wi-Fi brass tacks level, we quantify experience with 3 vectors. Number 1, and we actually have this throughput, and so every user, every minute on the Mist network, we are predicting what throughput we can deliver. If you ran a speed test right now, what throughput we could deliver. So how do we know if I could take a device and get 120 megabits? We have 3 network variables and 1 device variable. We factor into it and we do this math literally every device every minute. So first question we ask is, hey, is the device capable of 100 megabits, right? Cool, most devices are, so that's not a problem. Now, the very next question we ask is, okay, if I need to get 100 megabits, am I in a coverage area where my MCS rates upstream, downstream are supported for me to get 100 megabits? Am I in good coverage? And when we measure every user every minute, we have the data. So we could say, yep, hand on heart, this user with the current coverage can get 100 megabits. So good. The device is capable. You're sitting right under an AP. You're getting great coverage. Can you get 100 megabits? Not guaranteed. Why? The RF capacity matters, right? If the ambient RF capacity doesn't let you get 100 megabits, then that doesn't work, right? So then we measure every user, every minute, the available capacity. We say, okay, nope, capacity is good. I've got great coverage. My device is capable, and capacity is, the air is as clean as it could be. can I get 100 megabits? Well, on the Wi-Fi vector, yes. But what about the upstream network, right? Again, every user, every minute, we're measuring, is the upstream experience good enough? And this is what we fuse, Dean, across every user, every minute, and say, and we're predicting. So let's say, who's having a bad throughput day today, we could go in and see, aha, these devices, we're not able to deliver great throughput. Let's take the most offending one of this. Aha, we're not delivering good throughput to that individual user. We could see we're only delivering 66 megabits. Why is that happening? This device is struggling from getting airtime capacity. That's how we measure experience. And then one layer up, if you have a WAN router from Juniper, we measure application and the WAN link and other stuff as well. So that's what this is, and that leads me to the last one. Is the WAN bad WAN uplink on SRXs? Again, pretty obvious what we're talking about there is basically, if you take most of the distributed enterprise space, the number one reason they get calls from a clinic, a school, a retail store, or an enterprise branch, the number one reason by a huge margin is it always ends up being it's either the WAN circuit, the WAN uplink, probably they're using 4G or LTE or 5G for backup, and it's one of those things. Wi-Fi and network for the most part is good, and so we are now applying AI to segregate: is it the WAN uplink, or is it application? And that is actually, the WAN link is okay. It's the application experience that is suffering. So if you have our WAN SRXs or 128 routers, we're able to actually, provide Marvis actions to that.